Welcome to the Hindu Daily.
Hello.
We are diving into a stack of 6 crucial articles today, pulling threads from law, geopolitics, science, the environment, and health.
Yeah, quite a mix.
It's a massive breadth of topics, but all incredibly relevant, I think, to understanding the forces shaping our world right now.
That's right. Our mission today isn't just to, summarize,
No.
but to really extract the core ideas, define the key concepts, and lay out the biggest implications of these sources for you, our listener.
Okay.
Starting immediately with the 2 highly detailed pieces from today's editorial section.
Okay. Let's try to unpack this first one. It's a deep dive into the complex concept of constitutional morality.
Right, and to understand it now, you almost have to go back historically.
To the 60s, the Hart-Devlin debate.
Exactly. That whole argument over whether law should enforce public morals, it's foundational.
And didn't that lead to a court case, Shaw versus DPP,
Right.
where the House of Lords recognized some kind of residual power?
That's it. A power to enforce the moral welfare of the state. Quite a statement, really.
It is. So how does that connect to the Indian context?
Well, in ancient India, the concept of dharma kind of did both jobs. It covered law and morality.
Ah, right, like in the Tirukkural with Aram.
Precisely. The tricky part today is figuring out which leads which. Sometimes law has to pull morality forward, like with abolishing untouchability.
Mm-hmm.
And other times, law sort of catches up to where society's morals are heading, maybe like with gender equality recognition over time.
Okay, so here's where it gets, well, really interesting, defining it. What is constitutional morality today?
The term itself actually goes way back. George Grote, 1846.
Grote. What did he say?
He talked about needing a passionate attachment and a paramount reverence for the forms of the Constitution.
Okay,
But
referee.
crucially, he added it has to include open speech and, importantly, unrestrained censure of those in power. It's not just quiet obedience.
And Dr. Ambedkar picked up on this.
He did. He invoked Grote directly.
Yeah.
And he warned that this morality, this constitutional morality, it's not a natural sentiment,
Meaning?
meaning it has to be cultivated,
Yeah.
actively worked at. He worried, quite famously, that democracy in India was just a top dressing on an Indian soil, which is essentially undemocratic.
Wow. So
Okay.
it's fragile, needs constant effort.
That was his point. We have to actively choose it.
Now, Professor Dicey drew a line, didn't he, between the law of the Constitution, the stuff courts enforce,
Yes.
and this constitutional morality, which he saw more as conventions, not court enforce.
Right. Which begs the question.
If it's not law, why does a breach matter?
That's the core question. A breach might not land you in jail, but it's meant to have serious political consequences.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, look at the S.P. Gupta case. A violation was called a serious breach of constitutional morality.
Right.
Or more recently, Manoj Narula. The court couldn't actually rewrite Article 75 about appointments, but they stated they legitimately expect the prime minister not to choose someone accused of, say, heinous offenses.
So it's about the spirit, not just the letter.
Exactly. It boils down to bowing to constitutional norms, avoiding arbitrary action, even if there's no specific law being broken at that moment.
So the takeaway is courts aren't always the answer.
Often, no. When constitutional morality is violated, the real accountability might lie elsewhere.
On the floor of Parliament.
Yes, or ultimately with the electorate. It's a political check as much as a legal one.
Okay, that idea of accountability, maybe non-legal accountability, flows kind of neatly into economics and trade, specifically India-Nepal ties. The RBI announced some major measures, didn't they, back on October 1st, 2025, aimed at internationalizing the Indian rupee.
That's right, and strengthening ties with neighbors, particularly Nepal. There are 3 key things to pull out.
Okay, what are they?
First, 80 banks, it's authorized dealer banks, they can now lend INR directly to non-residents.
Non-residents where?
Specifically flagged are Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka for cross-border trade and transactions.
Okay, direct lending in rupees. What's second?
Second, they're expanding what those special rupee Vostra accounts can be used for.
Vostra accounts. Those are the accounts foreign banks hold in India, right?
Correct. Previously, they were mainly for investing in government securities. Now they can also be used for corporate bonds and commercial papers.
Interesting. Widening the investment options in INR. And third,
establishing a transparent reference rate for currencies of major trading partners, just making the exchange smoother and more predictable.
okay, let's focus on Nepal. Why is this package so crucial for them? They have that currency peg, the INR NPR at 1.6.
They do, and that peg has shielded the Nepalese rupee from depreciating wildly. But Nepal has structural issues.
Like what?
Well, one big one is the lack of confidence among Nepalese banks, which are often controlled by, big industrial houses, to lend readily to smaller businesses.
Ah, so small businesses struggle for working capital.
Massively. So this first measure from the RBI, the direct INR lending outreach,
Could bypass those local credit hassles?
that's the idea. It should give Nepalese businesses, especially smaller ones, more traction by removing that institutional hurdle.
And the Vostro account changes, allowing investment in corporate bonds. How does that help? Seems like a big player tool.
It is, but think bigger picture. By making the INR more usable, more attractive for these kinds of investments.
It reduces reliance on the U.S. dollar.
Exactly. It lowers the role of the dollar in regional transactions.
Yeah.
That shields Nepal from exchange rate fluctuations against the dollar.
Okay.
It eases pressure on their hard currency reserves, their forex.
And their current account deficit, the CAD.
Right. So while the peg helps, these measures provide a deeper, more structural stability by increasing INR usage and interdependency.
And the current trade dynamics make this even more important. India is already Nepal's biggest trading partner.
By far. About 65% of Nepal's international trade is with India, and India accounts for a third of the FDI stock there, around $670 million. Nepal is India's 17th largest export destination, too. It's deeply linked.
So this sounds like a win-win, but is there a catch or a prerequisite?
There is. The success really hinges on the Nepal Rashtra Bank, the NRB.
The Nepal Central Bank.
Yes, they need to actively, decode these RBI announcements and, crucially, implement the right mechanisms on their end.
To make it work smoothly.
And to protect their own economic and monetary interests while doing so, ensuring compliance. It's not automatic. It requires real follow-through from Kathmandu.
All right, from international finance, let's shift gears completely. Look up, way up. The science section takes us to Hanle.
Ah, yes. India's first official dark sky reserve.
In Ladakh. Now, I've heard it's one of the darkest places on Earth. What does that mean technically? Bortle 1.
That's the rating, yes. Bortle 1. It's the top of the scale, a 9-point scale measuring sky darkness. Bortle 1 means basically pristine, natural darkness, no light pollution.
What makes Hanle so special? Just remoteness.
Remoteness helps, but it's also the altitude, the low oxygen, very low humidity, and few atmospheric particles. Perfect conditions for astronomy.
Sounds like an astronomer's dream.
It really is. And the reserve itself is situated within the Changfeng Wildlife Sanctuary, specifically to protect the area around the Indian Astronomical Observatory.
Which is run by the IIA.
Correct, the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. And they have some serious kit up there.
Like?
The Himalayan Chandra Telescope, the Growth India Telescope, and 2 major Cherenkov telescope arrays, HAGT and MACE, for studying high-energy gamma rays.
Wow. But it's not just about the big science, is it? There's a conservation model here.
Absolutely. IIA worked with the local community. They distributed things like special lampshades, blackout curtains.
Warm-toned bulbs, right, to minimize stray light.
Exactly. It's preservation through community buy-in, not just imposing rules. And they have this annual star party. The third one just happened. A very quiet gathering. No white lights, no loud sounds, just people appreciating the sky.
That community approach seems key. And it pays off scientifically, too.
Definitely. Amateur astronomers visiting Hanle report seeing phenomena that are just invisible from most places now.
Like what?
Things like zodiacal light, that faint pyramid of light after sunset or before dawn.
Yeah, I've read about it. Sunlight scattering off dust.
An inner solar system.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the belt of Venus.
That pinkish band above the horizon.
Just above the Earth's shadow at twilight. You just don't see these subtle things with light pollution. Of course, the conditions making it great for telescopes, low oxygen, high UV, are tough on people.
Right. Acclimatization is essential.
Very much so.
But economically, it seems to be working.
It really does seem to be thriving. Around 10,000 visitors last year, in 2024. And this Astronomy Ambassadors program is fantastic.
Tell me about that.
IIA trained 25 local young people, 18 of them women, which is great to become guides. They lead night sky tours, generating income directly from the reserve's main asset, the dark sky.
Connecting conservation and livelihood. That's smart.
It is. Their motto is catchy. Come for the mountains, stay for the stars.
Nice.
And they're planning more infrastructure, a mini planetarium, and something called an astroglobe, a transparent dome for winter viewing. It looks like a really positive model for sustainable science tourism.
Okay, from preserving dark skies to protecting vital ecosystems on the ground. Let's turn to the text and context section and this IUCN report.
Right, the World Heritage Outlook 4. It assesses the state of natural World Heritage sites globally.
And the news for India? Mixed, maybe.
A bit sobering, I'd say. 3 major sites, the Western Ghats, Manas National Park, and the Sundarbans, are categorized as being of significant concern.
Significant concern. That sounds worrying.
It is. Now, 4 others were rated good with some concerns, and Kanchenjunga National Park was rated good, so it's not all bad news.
But that significant concern category is a red flag. And globally, the trend isn't great either.
No, it's not. The report highlights that the percentage of sites worldwide with a positive conservation outlook has actually decreased since 2014, dropped from 63% to 57%.
We're losing ground.
We are. The pressures are increasing.
What are the main threats flagged up for South Asia?
4 key ones mentioned. Climate change, no surprise there. Tourism activities often unsustainable. Invasive alien species. And interestingly,
What?
roads and railroads, infrastructure development. The report notes this is now among the top 5 threats in Asia, which apparently wasn't the case in the 2020 report.
So encroachment from development is accelerating.
That's the implication. It's becoming a primary driver of risk.
Let's zoom in on the Western Ghats. Older than the Himalayas, incredible biodiversity, 325 globally threatened species. Why are they significant concern?
It's a combination of factors hitting simultaneously. You've got major infrastructure proposals, like that big Silahala hydroelectric project, costing nearly 6,000 crore rupees.
Okay.
Then there's the sheer pressure from tourism garbage, is a huge problem mentioned. And underlying it all is climate change. We're seeing evidence of species like the endemic Nilgiri flycatcher being forced to move to higher altitudes to find suitable conditions. Their habitat is shrinking.
It puts the scale of the challenge in perspective.
Absolutely. These sites, globally, cover less than 1% of the Earth's surface.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. But they nurture over 20% of the mapped global species richness. They punch way above their weight.
So this report isn't just an assessment.
No, it's explicitly intended as a guide for action, a tool to help meet those big commitments made under the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It's a call to step up protection efforts.
Okay, let's switch gears again to domestic policy and agriculture. A crisis brewing in the Cauvery Delta region.
Yes, concerning paddy procurement.
The DMK government, the state government there, has asked the union government to relax the rules, specifically on moisture content.
That's right. They want the permissible moisture level for paddy procurement raised from the standard 17% up to 22%.
Why the sudden need? Damaged crops.
Exactly. It's been described as a perfect storm. First, they had a bumper harvest planting on over 6 lakh acres, way up from the usual 4 lakh.
Okay, more crop than usual.
Then, many farmers planted late. They were apparently trying to avoid damage to their cotton crops, so they waited until Cauvery water was abundant later in the season. Makes sense. But then, after the late planting and bumper crop, came the rains. So a lot of the harvested paddy inevitably has high moisture content.
And the rules are strict. The union government sets the MSP, the minimum support price.
And the quality specifications, like that 17% moisture limit, under the decentralized procurement scheme.
So the state needs the center's approval for this relaxation.
Correct.
Now, politically, this region is important for the ruling DMK, isn't it? A traditional stronghold.
Very much so. It elects something like 41 out of the 234 MLAs in the state assembly. So you can understand the ruling party's anxiety. They want a quick, hassle-free solution for the farmers there.
Has the center granted similar waivers before for other states?
Yes. The article mentions they have relaxed stipulations for states like Andhra Pradesh and Punjab in the past under similar circumstances.
So there's precedent. What's the holdup, or what's the way forward beyond just this immediate crisis?
Well, beyond getting the waiver approved, which likely involves some assessment from the center, the longer-term solutions point towards systemic improvements. Strengthening storage infrastructure is key to handle bumper crops better. Improving coordination between agencies like the railways for transport, farmers groups, procurement agencies.
Tighter logistics.
Right. And possibly opening up the procurement system more, maybe involving farmers, producers organizations, FPOs, those local cooperatives more directly in managing procurement and storage at the local level.
All right, our final piece for this deep dive takes us into health, specifically neurodiversity and autism. There's a fascinating question posed by a new study.
Yes, it asks. When autism is diagnosed later in life, is it just because it was missed earlier? Or could it actually be biologically distinct?
Two competing ideas. The unitary model versus the developmental model.
Exactly. The unitary model assumes it's all one thing, just spotted at different times. Yeah. The developmental model, which this study seems to support,
led by Varun Warrior at Cambridge.
That's the one. It suggests there might be different pathways into autism, developing differently over time.
So what did they find? What are these pathways?
They observed two broad behavioral patterns. First, the early onset group difficulties are pretty clear early on. Diagnosis usually happens in preschool or primary school.
Okay, the more commonly understood pattern.
Right. Then there's a later onset group. Here, individuals seem to have fewer difficulties early in life, but challenges become much more pronounced during adolescence. This often coincides with increased social pressures and academic demands.
And interestingly, this later group had genetic links to higher educational attainment.
Yes, suggesting perhaps a different underlying profile. The genetic analysis backed this up. They looked at nearly 50,000 people. They found two partly distinct genetic patterns. The later diagnosis profile showed stronger genetic links to co-occurring conditions.
Like what?
Things like ADHD, PTSD, depression, and self-harm. The earlier onset profile had weaker genetic ties to these specific conditions.
So that really challenges the simple misdiagnosis idea.
It does. It points towards autism being perhaps multiple spectra, not just one spectrum.
Okay, but genetics isn't the whole story, right? The study said it only accounts for about 10% of the variation in diagnosis age.
A really important point. Social factors, environmental factors, access to diagnosis, awareness, these play a much larger role in when someone gets diagnosed.
So what's the practical takeaway here for clinicians, for families?
I think the main thing is for clinicians to recognize that a lack of obvious, typical early symptoms doesn't rule out autism. It might emerge later.
Be open to later diagnoses.
Yes, and crucially, there's an urgent need for support for those co-occurring mental health conditions. The ADHD, depression, especially in adolescents who are diagnosed later, they often face compounded challenges.
Makes sense.
We also have to acknowledge a limitation of this study. It was based mainly on individuals of European descent.
Right.
Which means we really need more local research, culturally appropriate diagnostic tools, and understanding of how autism presents in diverse populations, like in India. #tag outro.
That was an incredible span of information today, really, from the ethics underlying our constitution and monetary policy with Nepal,
all the way to preserving pristine dark skies in the Himalayas and gaining a more nuanced understanding of neurodevelopment.
Quite the journey.
You know, if there's one thread connecting all these seemingly disparate topics, it might be this idea of cultivating and preserving vital things that aren't automatically inherited or guaranteed.
Like what?
Well, Dr. Ambedkar's point about constitutional morality needing cultivation, the conscious, ongoing effort needed to protect Hanle's dark skies, the resilient structures we have to build for economic stability or for health support.
Things that require deliberate action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of it just happens. It needs informed, conscious, and concerted human effort. A good reminder, maybe.
Indeed. Thank you for listening. If you want to provide suggestions, please contact on the Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we are eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.